Welcome back to The Trade. I'm Gina.
This is Drew.
Thank you for listening, liking, and commenting and subscribing to our YouTube, along with leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts. We truly appreciate it, and we love the feedback. It really means a lot, and we like to learn from you guys as well.
Thank you guys so much for doing that. I love reading all the comments.
How are you, Drew?
I'm doing really good. I woke up today, no stomach issues. I'm feeling good. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm
Me
doing
too.
good.
That's
How are you
awesome.
doing?
I'm doing great. I'm also excited for the podcast. I've been looking forward to it for all week.
Yeah, I just want to bring this up just because it's one of the bigger topics and it's something we've focused on before and something we used to focus on a lot. Did you hear about the big federal bust for dark web child pornography that happened?
I didn't. What happened?
So it was filed October 16th. Federal prosecutors have filed multiple charges against a 23-year-old South Korean man accused of running what is they called the world's largest dark web child porn marketplace.
Wow.
It operated between June 15th up until March of 2018. There was where did I say this? 200,000 unique videos and almost 8 terabytes of data showing sexual acts involving children, toddlers, and infants. According to the indictment on Wednesday, they were processing 7,300 bitcoins, which accounts to about $730,000.
Wow.
And
That's a
there is,
lot.
yeah, they've worked. I'm guessing it was with Interpol, and they were saying something. Yeah, 337 people have been arrested so far in connection with it.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting, but it's good work on a federal level, seeing them all work together and actually get busts like this done.
Yeah, that's actually amazing, and I hope that they do more. I've been seeing more of busts like that actually happening, and it makes me feel so proud, that they are putting more of and like, I wouldn't say effort, but like putting more of their attention onto things like this. I know that they did, but I see it more now, and it makes me feel great.
I think you have a demand from both from the populous civilians and then probably from within the police force themselves, because I think
Yeah.
everyone's starting to see it as a huge problem. But I think this kind of like leads me into a good segue. I want to welcome a guest who has what feels like 2 decades worth of experience in a 9-year career. He's a father, musician, and a retired police officer. I want to welcome Paul Brandon Fields,
Hello.
also known as Walker. Welcome, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. How are you all?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Thank you for coming on. Paul found us on Instagram. He reached out letting us know that he has a story of betrayal and he wanted to come on the podcast and talk about it. Where would you like to start, Paul?
We'll start wherever you all want to. I mean, we can start from the beginning. We can start it at the end and work our way that way.
Let's start at the beginning. I'm really curious.
Which betrayal do you want to talk about first?
Well, something that I am really curious about, just to start with, is your music.
Okay.
What got you into music?
Well, the Highwaymen. As a child, I would come home from kindergarten at 5 years old, and my dad would always have a snack laid out, and TNN was on the radio or the TV, and it was a Shotgun Red Showcase Hour. He was a puppet. They did different talents and so forth on that show, had different guests. But after that show would go off, it was nap time, and so I had a old tape player, and on cassette I had the Highwaymen album. Willie, Waylon, Chris,
all the greats.
Johnny, the greats. And every day I would start with the song A, side one, song one, and play it all the way through, and that's what I would listen to until I go to sleep. Side A, side B, side A, side B, to the point to where I knew those songs probably better than they did. So that's where it all started. Dad would dress me up as Willie Nelson to put a guitar in my lap. But when it come time, I told him I wanted to be on that show. They were doing like, they call them Knickerbocker pictures here in my area at the old Maloney's store, which is now the bus garage. And I remember going up there, and I could not smile. I couldn't fake a smile.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't get my picture took.
Oh,
And
no.
the look of disbelief on my dad changed me forever. I didn't want to ever disappoint him like that again.
Oh.
So that's where the performing started. The making him smile, making him laugh. So, and then at 12, he got my first guitar at Christmas. And I still play it on stage today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was listening. Yeah, I am too. That I have a tattoo that just says "smile" because it's something that my friend and I, we wanted to get that as something that we got for each other because, I mean, not enough people do just sit back and just smile, and I think that a smile goes a long way.
It does. It's 13 muscles to smile,
Yep.
33 to frown, and I'm lazy. So I would rather smile.
Right? That's funny. I was listening to your cover, Can't You See, on YouTube, and you did great. Do you still do shows like that?
I do. I do a whole lot of charity shows and festival type shows. I rarely ever do a show where I charge people because I feel if I put a bad product out, then I'm ripping them off because gas in my area is almost $3 a gallon right now, and it's hard times. So I'd rather them come to my performances and drink and enjoy themselves and have money left over to get home and eat than for me to mess up their favorite song and bum them out the whole rest of 2 hours they're there.
Right.
So
I follow around a band. They do heavy metal, and I do photography and videography for them during their shows. And it's put me more, it's helped me a lot with my own work with photography and videography, but it's put me more, it's made me more relatable to musicians. Like, it's hard work, and I really admire people that get up on stage and just put their all into their music. What kind of music do you usually do?
Southern rock, country. I dabble in some gospel. I don't like playing bluegrass. Probably the favorite genre or the people I try to emulate the most and sound like is like Toby Keith and Hootie and the Blowfish.
Nice.
A little bit of Hank Jr., but more. I tried to get my voice as much as I could to be like Darius Rucker growing up and Ronnie Van Zant.
I enjoy them.
And it's all just kind of melded together.
That's awesome. Good for you.
So, yeah. I try.
We'll leave his link to his YouTube and some of the songs that he does in the description. That way you guys can check him out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So you're an ex-cop. This is what I've really been waiting to dive into.
Okay.
Is your experience as an officer. What's the scariest thing that you've been through?
Watching a man commit suicide.
Ouch. It's deep.
I was trapped in my police car.
Wow.
Happened in Knott County. Let's see. I started over there in February, so this was either in March or April. My wife was pregnant. We were moving into the housing authority, and the guy had allegedly beat his spouse and fled to Indiana sometime during the morning hours. But he had called back and said that he was going to go to a certain gas station on Highway 80, which is should be an interstate, but it's a Kentucky highway system.
Yeah.
Leads up from London and so forth and Hazard. But said he was going to go there and just start shooting people until the cops got there and then have a shootout with us and take a few of us with him as he went. So I go to work that day. They tell me about it. I go back to the apartment and I remove my wife and her cousin and I walk by this dude's apartment. Well, they told us to look for a maroon Ford Explorer with a dolphin sticker. There was a red Chevy Blazer there, but I couldn't see the back glass to see any kind of stickers. And I walked by this guy's apartment, not knowing, but he was there.
Hmm.
So I had to do what we called a lake patrol for Carford Lake. And as I was doing that, I started seeing this Chevy Blazer behind me. And when I would dart off to the campgrounds to check him, he would keep on going and blow the horn and wave at me. But waving at the police officers in Knott County at that time, it wasn't anything because we had a political sheriff. He waved to everybody. He wanted all the deputies to wave to everybody for good voting, basically. So I called him and I said, buddy, you've got everybody over here buffaloed. I said, it's one vehicle. He's waved at me 6 times already, even flashed the headlights. Well, little did I know, he was just getting my attention. He was following me around.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to Dairy Queen. I get my food. While I'm in Dairy Queen, he circles me twice, blowing the horn and waving. And I'm looking for a maroon Ford Explorer. And he is in a Chevy Blazer. Completely 2 different vehicles. So I find my help that day. It was 2 state troopers, one who's retired and one who's a captain at Post 10 in Harlan County. So he's been able to continue his career. But we go to where this guy said he was going to go, and I got there about 15 minutes early and posted up to where I could see the whole intersection. So while they're getting gas, because we don't know if this is going to turn into a pursuit or whatnot, everybody's ate. Everybody use the bathroom because that's the cop life. You eat when you can. You use the bathroom when you can because you don't know what's going to happen. While they're getting gas, I see the red Chevy Blazer drive through the intersection, but it doesn't go past my point of view. So he's parked. Which that was indifferent. It was indifferent because they used to park there and ride together to the coal mines in the area. It's like a parking ride type deal. So one of the troopers that's retired comes up and he parks on my right side. The trooper that's now a captain went down in front of the guy whose name is Sam Barnett and pulls up the driveway and backs in beside of me. And I'll never forget this to the day I die. Ryan, the trooper, rolls the window down and says, aren't you just tactically sound? Which means good job. I've got the high ground on everything. We'll see everything. It wasn't 15, 20 seconds. Sam started walking up the road to us. Didn't know it was him. We had black and white pictures. I had an involuntary hospitalization in my car. I was supposed to take him to Hazard for hospitalization, get him checked out. And it wasn't until he was already about 20 yards on us we recognized it was him. He had his head down smoking the whole time, walking to us. And at about 20 yards, we saw he had a gun in his right hand. I thought it was in his pocket. When they yelled gun, we all threw our doors to bail out of the cars and take cover. My door caught Captain's door. He was trooper captain then. Caught his door, and I was pinned. I couldn't get out.
Wow.
So Chris takes cover over top of my cruiser. I started going to run him over. But I see he's over top of my cruiser. If I miss him, Chris is wide open. I heard a dog.
My wiener dog, Brody.
That's all right. So if I miss or anything like that, Chris has no more cover. So I turned the car back off, and it's true. Everything slows down to milliseconds. I had holstered and unholstered my gun, started my car, and stopped it and had my gun back on Sam within 2 seconds. I made all them decisions that fast. And we started hollering, drop it, drop it, drop it, and put the gun down, and he waves by looking at me. He drops his hand. He locks eyes with Chris, and he pulled the trigger, and he did not close his eyes. And he was about 8 to 10 yards in front of my car.
Wow.
So it was a very hard pill to swallow. 3 months later, my son's born. Healthy baby boy, luckily. But he did not let us do our job that day, so to speak. And that's a hard pill to swallow, Brody. But It's see, a police officer, your job is to serve and protect.
Right.
But he took himself hostage that day. He took us out of that equation to make us feel useless. And when we talked to his wife and told her that he waved by, she kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, that's something that he would have done."
Oh.
So, but whatever it was on that fat guy's mind, it was there. There was no getting it off, and it took me about 4 to 6 years to finally be able to say the man's name without calling him a cuss word. You know, and I had an old man, an instructor from Louisville during a training one time said, when you can say his name, you'll get over it. So it's kind of helped.
And I'm guessing it's
But
something
that's-
it's affected you probably, or it still affects you to this
Oh,
day.
yeah, I wake up sometimes from him waving. You know, it's don't. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a flashback. It's just an image, a dream. Other than that, I really don't think about it from time to time. But it's a story. And the people that I talked to at the newspaper, I told them off the record stuff. But basically, I can speak how I did with you all because they went with me word for word, detail for detail. And the only reason that I agreed to have it printed was they listed the suicide prevention hotline in Kentucky. So, but other than that, I was thinking about suing them because it was actually under investigation by the Kentucky State Police. So, but yeah, that's probably the scariest moment. But I've done so much search warrants where I'm kicking the door in by myself and clearing the whole house as an adrenaline rush that other people would just turn white. But I cannot stand to see the sight of blood. I'm the cop who distances himself and hollers, "Help is on the way."
Really?
Yeah, I can't do blood, man. Help's coming. Just breathe. So, but yeah. But it was a lot of fun. The career was fun. It had highs, it had lows. But overall, I like in the intro, based on my federal taxes and what I draw as disabled now, it's like I did a 20-year career in 9.5. So
Wow.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's gotta feel like a long time.
yeah. But I'm
Speaking,
still young. I'm
yeah.
38, and I'm disabled. I draw off the government, and I'm getting paid to watch TV, so I can't complain.
Right, you've worked really hard. My
Right.
my grandma committed suicide, so
I hate to hear that.
I can relate, and it was unexpected, and I know of some friends and some friends who have committed suicide, and
Right.
I hear of younger and younger children that are doing it as well. Just recently, a 10-year-old did from bullying,
A
and
10-year-old.
yeah, and so I'm gonna leave the suicide hotline in the description as well. And if anybody feels the need to reach out and talk, you know,
You're not alone in
you're
the world. There's
you're not.
7 billion people on Earth.
Yeah, there's always someone to reach out to, and if you're not comfortable with us, we'll leave the hotline, and just reach out for help if you feel, that compelled to do something like that to yourself.
See, I've had 2 officers who were friends. One, I'm not going to mention their names, but one was deliberate. We know that because his actions leading up and the evidence showed that it was a deliberate gunshot wound that killed him. The second one, we don't know because he had shot himself in the leg before while on a drug buy in Knott County. He was buying drugs and playing with the hammer on a gun, and it went off and shot himself in the thigh.
Wow.
So we don't know if it was gunplay on him or accidental or intentional. But the
Ouch.
second one, the first one I talked about, that was intentional, and it was a sad time in the black eye on the Kentucky State Police Agency how they handled the funeral, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, but no, with 7 billion people in the world, somebody somewhere is going through just about the same thing as you are. It may not be the same, but they can relate.
Exactly.
somebody can relate. And we've got Google and Google Earth and Google Translation. They might not be in your country, but with the advent of the iPhone, and the iPhone has put Pangea back together. That's why we're having all these migrants.
I like
they
that.
They see what's going on where, and then they pack up and move, mister. You know, they
Right?
got free health care there. Hell yes, I'm going.
Yeah.
And they hold the world, the song, I've got the whole world in my hand, it's come true. You all are where?
Facts.
You are in California.
Yeah, I am.
I'm in Podunk, Kentucky, in my bedroom at my mommy's house on the Wi-Fi right now. All because of technology. Easy, Brody.
Sorry. He hears some things outside and starts talking.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So here's what I'd like to ask you all, if you don't care.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
When you called to set this up, you said that you were working on helping prosecute or finding sexual predators.
We have, yes.
How many cases have you all, or incidents have you all uncovered?
We have caught 200 and
Caught.
yeah, like exposed.
Exposed is a better term.
Yeah,
Okay.
expose them. And then we've had at least 15 cases that have went to court, and I've been a part of at least 5 of those, and I went to court twice.
Well, I'm proud of you,
Thank
because
you.
court's a big step. A lot of people hear the word court and testify, and it scares them.
For sure.
They think, but that's tremendous, and I'm proud of you guys for doing that.
She's an amazing decoy. If you actually check out our first episode, you can hear her actually talking with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's an amazing decoy.
Well, I'll have to admit I haven't watched the first episode, but I will check it out as soon as we get done here.
For sure, it can be hard to listen to, especially like knowing how old he is and what he's talking about.
Oh,
But
yeah, a lot of people can't get past the first 15 minutes because he gets pretty graphic.
The first
Yeah.
15?
Yeah.
Okay.
He gets
That's disgusting.
Yeah, he gets disgusting. He's foul. But have you dealt with sexual predator cases?
I have, but the kicker on my part is they would tell me that they've been raped or sexually assaulted. And then they would refuse to prosecute. So as a police officer, they're tying my hands behind my back, and I have the right to indict if I want to. But they're not giving me any evidence and refusing to testify, so why am I wasting my time? And it upsets my stomach. It makes me frustrated and angry because 2 of the people are still on my Facebook friends list, just so I can keep an eye on them and see whose relationship they're in, just to see how bad or if that person is going to be abused and I'm going to be the next shoulder they cry on.
Yeah, I feel that. I go through the Facebooks of the men and the woman that we have caught.
A woman.
Yeah, and just to see
Wow.
just to see what they're up to.
Excuse me.
And see what they're posting about and what relationships they're in, and if they're in a relationship that has children involved. And it's just, I like to be aware and know what they're up to, just because it doesn't sit well with me just to deal with something like that and then forget about it. I can't forget about it.
Well, these people, they kind of feel like on the internet it's a victimless crime because they're talking to a tangible object.
Right.
It's just a keyboard and mouse. It's just a phone to some people. And it's a game.
Just to see if they can accomplish something, and it's sick.
It's disgusting. Very disgusting.
Yeah, we've dealt with so much when it comes to that. It's so sick. Way too much.
I'd say so.
So I have a question. What's your opinion on mandatory body cams while on duty? I know that's been a topic. I'd like to hear your opinion about it.
I like them, but I don't at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have a good police officer, why police the police?
Okay.
Have a dash camera.
Mm-hmm.
Have a front and back dash camera. If you put a body camera on a police officer, that is one more piece of equipment that is going to weigh him down.
Hmm.
You got to think about body movement. His hand could get caught up when he's switching from one weapon to the other, get caught up around the camera or the wire. Now he's one-handed.
That's interesting.
Or the perpetrator could grab the camera off the officer and start using it as a weapon for his eyes.
True.
So I think just going back to, if they're going to do it, I would like to see them do it with lenses, like this clear shooting lenses, the polar reflections. That way the camera's at eye level and you see exactly what that officer's seeing and dealing with. And if it goes down, he can easily throw the lenses down. It'll still capture audio.
Right.
But to me, one more piece of equipment on a police officer is too much.
While we're talking about this, a former Florida deputy, he was recently arrested on a slew of charges for allegedly planting drugs on people.
I saw that.
Yeah, that
I
he
didn't
pulled
see
over.
that. I heard about it. I heard about it. I've actually had a constable here in my county who used to do that stuff, but it would get around word of mouth, and then we finally, I didn't do it, but the Kentucky State Police and federal government made a buy that started in Virginia, and he transported the drugs to Hazard.
Wow.
So I've had, that stuff does exist, but it's kind of like you can't ruin the whole bushel of apples by having one bad bruised one in there.
Exactly.
So those cases are few and far between, and 1 out of every 10 police officer, that one is going to be useless.
Right.
That's kind of because why I worked so much. If I could not trust the guy that I had as backup, I had to work harder. And if I could not trust the guy who come out to take over my shifts on a busy day, I went ahead and stayed out because I knew I could do my job and be trusted.
Right.
So
his charges included like 9 counts each of official misconduct, fabricating evidence, possession of an illegal substance, false imprisonment, misdemeanors of perjury, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Investigators found 42 items of drug paraphernalia in the officer's car, including 10 separately packaged quantities of methamphetamine and 5 separately packaged quantities of marijuana. Wow.
Well, here's what the victims of any arrest he's ever made should do. They should get together, pool their money, find an attorney like Shapiro was, or Johnny Cochran, sue that department and that officer personally, because every case that he's ever done is fruits of the poisonous tree.
Exactly. There's 11 people that have testified so far, and that he planted drugs on them. And the majority of the victims were locals, but it does not appear that Wester was targeting a specific group of people who, so there's like no motive behind it. He was just doing it.
It was just leverage for him.
Right.
So he was taking advantage of the badge.
Right. And so what really sealed the deal on that was his body cam catching it happening. So I definitely agree with you in some instances. And then I also think, it also helps get those bad apples out also.
Well, we have a public relation officer in my district, Jody Sims, and he said something to me one night when we hired a questionable person at the Knott County Sheriff's Office over the previous sheriff's administration. He said, "Don't worry, Paul Brandon. It all comes out in the wash." And that boy was gone in 3 months.
Wow.
So, but everything done in the dark, it doesn't matter what it is. And this is why I love the dark. This is why I loved working night shift. Everything done in the dark comes to the light.
Exactly.
So everybody knew I was working. They never knew where I was because it was always nighttime, unless they had a scanner. But they always read about me with arrests and ticket writing in the newspapers. So my name in my area, Paul Brandon Fields, is synonymous. And I couldn't tell you how many tickets I've wrote. I can't tell you how many arrests I've made. But I only put handcuffs on the people that I was afraid of or I thought would fight. Or if I just really wanted to prove a point to them to make sure that they knew I was not scared of them. I arrested more people with my voice than I did with anything else.
Right.
So, but no, I'm glad they caught the Floridian.
Right. Yeah.
But he needs to, those people, anybody, and I'm talking from the start of his career,
Mm-hmm.
should honestly think about filing civil action against that department and that police officer in general because your civil rights were violated.
Yeah, be 100% honest too.
Yeah.
What sucked the most about being a cop?
What sucked the most about being a cop? Well, the way my career ended sucked the most. But
Yeah, I bet.
on the daily, what sucked the most about being a cop was having a quit time on paper, but never getting to go home at quit time because the job wasn't done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In theory, I have a start time and a quit time, but in reality, I go home when crime stops.
It's just like me when I was being a mechanic. You get
Yeah,
paid for so much, but you got to do it till the job's done. Doesn't matter how long it takes. You only got.
exactly. If you catch a case, if you're supposed to get off at midnight and you make that arrest at 11:59, you probably got 2 more hours of paperwork to do just on one
Yeah.
arrest.
Better be
And I
prepared
never
to
did.
hang out.
I never did paperwork at home. I always did my job at the job and left my job at work. You know,
Never brought it home.
I tried not to.
We have a few questions from our sharing awareness group that they would like to ask you. One of
Okay.
them is, do you think there should be more departments for sex crimes and these online groomers?
Yes, you can never have enough help with cyber attacks.
Exactly.
The last panic attack I had, it was from a local person. I don't know who it was because I didn't subpoena an IP address, but Apple did. They've got the records if I ever need them. But I was the victim of a phishing attack because I've got PTSD and I've set up anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hacked through my iPhone, and Apple security saved me from getting my bank accounts fully hacked. But whoever did it signed me up for a bunch of dating sites, I guess, to try and embarrass me. So, but that one phishing attack cost me 45 minutes of my life in a panic attack in front of my mom.
Wow.
And it took CBD oil that I bought at the counter in Virginia to bring me out of it. 45 minutes fighting to breathe, knowing I was all right, and then a teaspoon of CBD oil, and then 5 minutes later, I'm laughing about it.
I have a condition called cichlid vomiting syndrome, so I use cannabis to fight anxiety.
I read your bio, or your post there the other day.
Yeah. It's an interesting, but cannabis it helps me tremendously get through the day.
Right. Well, Kentucky, we're behind a little bit, but our state representative, she's also the assistant county attorney. She said that she's going to, as long as she's in office, this is hearsay to me, but it was from the cash register where I buy my CBD bud, said that as long as she's in office, they're not going to discriminate against the properties of a plant anymore.
That's awesome to hear. That's really good to hear.
Yeah. So, and also in Jefferson County, which is Louisville, Kentucky, they basically went green, which means that it is officer discretion whether to even cite or not.
Which is really funny because Kentucky was the largest hemp producer in the United States for a very, very long time, up until the 1930s.
Mm-hmm. Reefer Madness kicked in. And then hemp and ginseng. Ginseng has produced, it was either 14 billion or 44 billion. I can't remember.
It's a huge number.
But yeah, it was probably 44 billion in just ginseng from Kentucky. So, but yeah, you're right. Hemp and ginseng ruled Kentucky for the longest time. And now it's horses is our cash crop.
So interesting. I didn't know that.
It went from tobacco to horses. Because of the Derby.
Oh, I guess that makes complete sense. That makes
Yeah.
That question that I just asked was from Jared. This one's from Allison. I'm not sure if you'll have an opinion on it, just because she's from the UK, so this pertains to her law enforcement. But
Okay.
maybe we can talk about it.
Okay.
What can be done to stop the out of control knife situation that's going on? But that is a UK cop question, I would say.
Yeah, because they have
Right.
they have escalated stabbing rates in all over
Right.
the UK right now.
Right. Even the police officers over there, the only people over there that carry a gun are the special response teams.
Right.
So the only thing I can say about knife problems getting out of control, it's a tool. You've got to look at Mexico. This was the example they give us in the police academy. A Spanish person, a Mexican, uses a knife all day to cut strawberries in the fields.
Right.
So to them, it's a tool. So we would have, say, ojo los manos, show me your hands. And, they would show the palms. So they would have to drop whatever's in their hand. And you would say, drop the knife. And they don't think of it as a knife. It's a cutting tool. So, but if you ban the knife, how you going to eat steak?
Valid points.
You know what I mean? Are you going to have to go to a restaurant to rent the knife to cut the steak?
Be watched while you cut your steak.
Right. So I mean, it's. I have no idea unless you make the only thing I can think about is making a knife that once it stabs somebody, it stays in them, because it's not the actual stab that gets them. It's the stab and the twist and the puncture and the puncture. If they could make a knife that once it's in, it breaks from the blade to stop the bleeding, that's the only thing I can figure out to stop, but I don't know. I'm not a,
yeah.
I don't know. Good luck.
No matter what, people will use something as a tool to hurt someone.
A fork scares me more than a knife.
Yeah. Poke your eye out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Chelsea has a question. What do you think about cops using their power in their advantage, such as speeding, using their phones, and other stuff too?
I'm guilty.
Are you?
I'm guilty.
Oh, no.
Okay. If the speed limit said 55, I did 65.
Ooh.
I texted and drove. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I never wrote anybody for something that I did. Out of my career, I only wrote one speeding ticket because I got in pursuit of them.
Interesting.
And if I had a headlight out on my cruiser, nobody that day got a headlight ticket. Because I'm breaking the law myself. So I never, and fishing license. I'm going to have to get one now because I'm telling on myself. But the whole time I was a deputy sheriff and city cop, I never had a fishing license. So
shame on you.
I know, bad boy.
That's a whole other debate, the whole fishing license thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Right?
Because I was supposed to enforce all laws and regulations of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now, if I'm breaking it, I can't enforce it.
More officers would like that. People would have a lot more trust probably in police officers.
They need to get back to Andy Griffith.
It's always a good example.
To treat people like people. If you treat the rich man just like you treat the poor man, and it's all yes sir, no sir until they make it ugly, they call you a SOB, then they become the MFer, then you run from there. But it's got to where, I don't want to say brainwashed, but there's too many movie cops out there.
Right.
And I call them, some of them, a chicken shit with a badge. I have no time for a chicken shit cop. Go to McDonald's if you want a job. You can serve people there all day long, just like you can here, and they will give you a uniform.
I've got a question for you. This is to get a little
Okay.
bit back on the topic, kind of why you were here.
Okay.
What is, out of your experience, out of all the things, including your career and things like that, what is your biggest story of betrayal? Something
The
you,
when how I got fired from my job. I moved back home. My son got diagnosed with autism 6 days before his third birthday. So I knew I had to. I started researching, and I saw interaction was key. The mayor, who is still in office, I'll name him, James Wiley Craft, when he was Commonwealth attorney, and yeah, I'm going to bring up his dirty laundry because they tarnished my badge. He was prosecuted for um, basically doing anything to win a case while he was the Commonwealth attorney, which would be your all's district attorneys out west. So I put my application to come back home. I'm hired. I went over there to start the family. I got divorced while I was over there. And when he got diagnosed, I knew I had to come back home, and I didn't care who to work for. The sheriff was mad at me. He was my role model growing up. And where I quit him to go to Wattsburg the first time, he wouldn't hire me back. So I had to suck it up. I had a shady chief, Henry Day. He's a good guy, but he didn't have a backbone. And he was too much of a yes man to be a supervisor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So I moved back home, and everything's going good. But everybody's the public is saying that I've moved back home to be the chief of police, when I just moved back home to be close to my son Brayden. And I had a buddy who's dead now, David Combs, who was running for sheriff. And had he won, I was going to be his chief deputy. And he was going to put me in a Dodge Challenger and just let me go school to school and be a political school resource officer type deal. And that way I was with my son. So about a year being back home, I'm directing school traffic in the evening at the Wattsburg Elementary School, and a lady who turned out to be the treasurer of a local church said she didn't see me, and she floors it coming across the road and hits me about in the waist. But when I put my hands down, all the energy come up and out my neck, and it caused a bone spur that is lodged still in between the vertebrae. So my hands go numb. It makes it difficult. Sometimes I can play 45 minutes on the guitar without taking a break. Sometimes I can do 30. I'm lucky to get an hour anymore. I've got bad nerve damage. So she hits me the first time, and I don't miss a day of work because it was right. I was off the next 2 days, and I went to the doctor during the next 2 days, and they said I sit and go to physical therapy. So I'm still in physical therapy. 5 months later, different time of day. This is morning. It's kind of misty. It just rained. Our lights on our cars were so bright, and I had made complaints about it, just letting us to be able to put a strip of tent around the driver's side so the officer's safety would not be imposed by the brightness, because the bus drivers were even complaining about the lights being down there so bright. So anyway, I'm standing in the middle of the road. She's the last car I'm going to let out. She's driving her vehicle. She's driving it was an SUV. I don't know if it was a 4Runner or a Pathfinder. But when she got to the top of the hill, for some reason, she just kept turning toward me. I had her ample space to go around me or in front of me, but it was like that front of that vehicle just kept coming at me. So as I start to try to get out of the way and run to the shoulder of the road, it's like she cut it deeper. And I did the Heisman Trophy pose, arm out. And I caught
Yeah.
the hood. When I caught the hood, to brace myself, it dislocated the shoulder. It tore the labrum.
Dang.
So I rolled down the side of the vehicle, I smacked the hood so hard that it dents it just so it would have my fingerprints on it if she not stopped. And I run to the shoulder. I throw my arm. I feel it pop. It's back in place. So then I go to my cruiser. She's not stopped yet. And I yell, "Hey, lady." And she finally stops. Rolls down the window. And I tell her to get her stuff together. This was the second time I've been hit. I can't talk to her right now because I'm the victim of a 1045, which I thought was wrecked without injuries, but I was hurt. So anyway, go to the hospital. They shoot me up with steroids, do a CT scan, but it's already inflamed. They can't see the tire in the labrum. And I continue physical therapy. It starts over again, but I'm off work. Don't know how long. Halloween comes up. Brody's got a nice shake of the head there. So Halloween comes up, and my son, as we're going trick-or-treating, is pulling me by my left arm, the one that had been dislocated. And I know there's something wrong, but when we go to City Hall, the mayor looks at me and he says, "There's Paul Brandon. He's looking for that rocking chair in those green pastures." Like I was faking my injuries. I'll never forget that. So for 10 months and 3 days, I'm on workers' comp. I'm going to therapy every day. My son has a birthday. I pay for it. I'm making about $432 a month. And out of the blue, the chief of police, Tyrone, shows up on my front porch with a paper saying that I was terminated. So I read it. I said, "This says if I come back Monday at 9 a.m., I can work." He said, "This is your notice of termination." I said, "No, workers' comp benefits is terminated. They're done. So you are forcing me back to work." I said, "Now, I'm going to need help. My arm, I can't even lift a table chair past my waist. That's like, what, 6, 8 pounds? Just a regular dinette table chair. And I'm supposed to be fighting grown men at a job, you know. You never know when you're going to have to use force, but you don't want to. You don't want to find out." Well, I'm one armed, basically. And it's my gun arm that is good. But I don't want to have to go straight to a taser or a gun when it's a 14 to 16-year-old child. You've got to be able to wrestle. So he said that everything would be all right. I would have my same schedule, and I would have help. Don't worry about it. He'd help me all I could. So I shaved my lovely beard off that was bigger and bushier than it is now. Put my uniform back together, got my shiny shoes out, went to the doctor first to see if I could add the report. She said yes, she couldn't overrule a surgeon. Went to my lawyer, and while I was at my lawyer, the phone rings, and it was Tyrone, and he says, "Can you just go on, draw your unemployment?" And my lawyer says no, because in Kentucky, to receive unemployment, you have to be ready and willing and able to work. Well, I'm hurt. I can't work. This is the only job I know. I've got a bachelor's degree for it. So I tried to work that day. We hit a pothole. I could have got workers' comp again. Could have went to the hospital again. We hit a pothole so deep that it jammed my back and it jammed my neck, and I had to go directly the next day and get another Toradol shot just so I could take a shower. So I tried to work 13 days. The first day I had somebody with me. The second day they put me out like 19 hours by myself. The third day was like 21 hours. And then they changed my days off from the weekends to where I had my son who would not change his schedule for his autistic program that he was in through the Letcher County Board of Education. They changed my days off to the middle of the week. Well, by this time I had a kind of failed relationship, but we were working stuff out, and they put me on a serotonin releaser, Lexapro. And I got used to taking it at night and sleeping on it. So the serotonin would release at night, and I would wake up and just work it off. They put me on night shifts, so I didn't change my schedule. I didn't take it in the mornings. Because I would come home about 6, go to sleep, wake up at 2, get back to work, and go to bed, and take my pill at night while I was working. And it was too much serotonin. So they said I set up what was called mania. I've never heard of that before in my life. That's what, but I'll get there. I go to a buddy who's retired now, football coach. He got PTSD because he had to shoot a guy who pointed a gun at him on a complaint. And in fear of his life, he had taken another man's life in the line of duty. And he retired with PTSD. And he said, "You're eat up with it. You need to go see this therapist and have them put you off work and you can retire. You're hurt. You can think about retiring." I said, "Okay." So that next day, that was a Wednesday, I think. But the next day, probably Thursday, yeah, because my son had surgery Friday, I went to her office. She writes the letter up saying how I wasn't a threat to anybody. All I had to do was see a psychiatrist, get treated, but she recommended I not work until then. And it was just going to be the weekend. I had almost 30 days of sick time saved up where I've been off for 10 months and 3 days. You get 1 day each month that you're there. So I had about 20 something. And they had donated 1 day of sick and vacation to a guy there named Wade, who was just a weed. He was a good guy, but he was on the grounds crew. He weed eated and picked up garbage. But without my permission, they give him 2 of my days. So I had days to spend off work hurt, but they refused to let me use them. So when my captain takes the letter saying all that to the mayor, and he's already got the police commissioner in there, who they called the general. He's passed away now, but he was a brother Mason in the lodge. The mayor's a brother Mason in the lodge. The guy who I give the letter to was a brother Mason in the lodge. He said, "Brandon's going to be off for a while." And the mayor says, quote unquote, was told to me, I'm sick of his shit. He's fired. Okay. I'm gone. I'm not even in the room. I'm waiting on a ride to come pick me up because I rode my Harley Davidson to the therapist office. It was going to be a good day. I was making myself have a good day. So by that time, I'm already in hazard at Taco Bell. The therapist told me to go get a brand new phone so she could keep up with me until I saw the psychiatrist in Pikeville. And little did I know that my mom and my brother had contacted my cousin, who's a state trooper, and told them to find me. So I called the state police post and told them exactly where I was going, to a motel, just so I could get away from everybody and everything. My son was having surgery the next day. I needed sleep. I'd been up for almost 70 some odd hours.
Dang.
People would not bother let me rest. The last case I ever worked, the girl said she got raped, and she was one of my informants when I was a deputy sheriff in 2003. The first door I ever kicked in was because of her. She made the buy because she trusted me. And she tells me she's raped, but the trooper that's there, and the rape happened outside the city limits, called her a piece of shit and would not help me. So I have to stay up all that night and day, fill out the citations. I have to arrest her for burglary, where she broke into a house trying to get away from her mother. I have to type the case up, the citations, open a preliminary investigation for rape, and then contact the Kentucky State Police at 8 o'clock so Trooper Everso could open her case and just interview her to jail. No help from nobody.
Wow.
So I didn't know anything about the mayor firing me until Sunday. I was doing outpatient pretty much therapy at the Ridge in Lexington, and my mother shows up on visitation day. It was my 3rd day down there. I'd already been diagnosed with PTSD. I got a quick early diagnosis so I could start the retirement process. And I would have been retired state and federal with 9 years, as with a disability on it. So she said, "Son, they had to let you go." And I said, "Let me go from where? To do what?" And she said, here, sign this COBRA paper so you have insurance so they can continue to treat you. So my mother, out of her pocket, starts paying for that COBRA insurance so I can still be treated down there. And where I got fired, it tacked on another 7 days because they wanted to observe me and my behavior. So they ended up hitting me with bipolar type 2 as well. And I'm like, well, I'm 31. That's new to me. I was a bipolar cop. Didn't know. I just thought it, me controlling my emotions and turning them on and off was me as a cop keyed into the situations. But they said, no, it's bipolar. But anyway, I was fired 140 some miles away from my hometown by my mother, third person, who got the information from the secretary. And to this day, nobody at the Whitesburg City Hall, anybody in the administration, anybody on the police department has handed me, which is state law that I think it's there. Not for sure. I'm not good with labor law. They've not handed me a letter of resignation. They've not told me I'm fired. They've not given me any reason. I had 10 days to appeal it, according to the police officer's Bill of Rights. But where I was in Lexington for those 10 days after I lost my job, it was null and void. I had no way of appealing to get my job back. So I had to eat it. Then workers' comp starts on me. So I have to sue workers' comp. I have to sue the insurance companies of the people that hit me, just so I can survive and make sure my autistic child has chicken nuggets and french fries on the weekend while his dad eats 49-cent cans of potted meat.
Wow.
So I've calmed down a lot about it. But you want to talk about a bitter 7 years. I've decided that I'm over it. 7 years bad luck is done. This is my 8th year. In Masonry, I want to reveal a secret, but I really don't care. There's a part in the 3rd degree ceremony. You probably Google it. There's no secrets in Masonry anymore. It's all online.
Yep.
But there's a part of the ritual where they take the great architect, Harmabiff. He's the widow's son in the Bible. And the first ruffian turns his head to the east, and he said, I've labored upon this temple for 7 long years. I want the password. Okay? 7 long years. That's how long I've had to eat this and bury it and refuse to move from my hometown, from my home county that I grew up in as a child, that I protected the people so they could sleep at night. That anytime they called 911, I was in their driveway 45 seconds, you know. But to be fired for getting hurt on the job, bullshit.
That is bullshit.
No dignity. What are you afraid of? But to this day, I've had no explanation on why it happened. So I've just buried it. And that is the biggest betrayal I've ever experienced in my life. I've had buddies sleep with girls that I was trying to get in relationships with, and that didn't bother me as bad as this.
I mean, it completely flipped your life around.
Yeah, it took food. It was, to me, being a cop, it wasn't a job. It's your life. You reflect how you want the community to act. And then, poof, it's all gone. They tarnished my badge. Then the rumors start. He's faking his injuries. He's had a nervous breakdown. I didn't set up PTSD until I could not work. When they told me I couldn't work is when I started the stress. Because at work, I was free. It was natural. I was the same in uniform as I was out. That's, I don't know. I just try to be a person.
You've reflected that in your stories. I mean, when you're talking about the tickets and things like that.
Yeah. And that's just the world, man. It's you get back the same energy that you give off. It's like being a chameleon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
It's like being able to adapt to every situation and overcome it, but to hope for the positive.
Exactly.
And for these last 7 going on 8 years now, the 8th year, I've decided to get over it, invest my money into myself because my workers' comp check ends. I got 8 years of benefits monetarily. My PTSD and the bipolar issues will be taken care of until I die. Paid for by the city of Whitesburg and the Kentucky League of Cities. That was part of the a judgment, I guess you could say. But they've tarnished my name. But I still go to, it's called Summit City on Main, and I still do free shows for people. I've yet to miss a fundraiser.
That's awesome of you.
You know,
For sure.
so if anybody needs a show for charity, charity is love in the Bible.
Absolutely.
So I do all that stuff for free.
That's
Just
amazing.
if you can help me get back home with a tank of gas, perfect. If I can eat while I'm there, that's even better. So, but that to me was the biggest betrayal I've ever encountered up till this point. There may be something further come along. I don't know. But
What inspires you and motivates you now after that has happened?
busting the stigmas.
Hmm.
I had to start fighting stigmas with autism with my son. The song "Listen to Me, Son," I wrote it in Knott County right after the divorce because he never would say the word dad. I waited 4 years to hear one word. The song worked. So, yeah, he finally listened to me. But he said, I see Dad's truck on the phone, and I hit the lights and siren from the Wendy's to City Hall. And I got him out, and I said, who am I? He said, your dad. So, but now he's 13, and 2 weeks ago he looks at me and says, Dad, I'm not dumb. I said, oh, I know this. I know this. So, but he's got his own YouTube channel.
That's awesome.
It's Blast Brayden Fields HD.
Cool.
And the boy wants his silver play button.
We'll link his.
Yeah. Send us the link, and we'll link it in the description.
Okay,
for sure.
I can
Absolutely.
do that.
And anybody that's listening, you should definitely go to his channel and you should subscribe to him and give him some support in the comments and like his videos. That would mean the world to him. You know, speaking of your son being high functioning autistic, I know of some kids here where I live who deal with the same thing or similar to it, and they get made fun of and have a hard time excelling. But
Right.
they have created a place for them similar to a gym where they can hang out with others and be social and have a place like where they deal with similar things, but they can be able to be together and be social and
Right.
do stuff that they don't normally do at home. And you know,
See, I like that. I like those ideas about having safe places for children with autism.
Yeah.
But if you want the child to function in society, you have to have a little bit of controlled chaos at home.
Exactly.
When he's putting dominoes together and he's stacking them high, Daddy sometimes has to sneeze.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The tower has to come down.
Yep.
And then it's oops, try again. So, But I've even started him when he's here and can't sleep on 4 drops of hemp balm CBD oil.
Mm-hmm.
And he's starting to get to where he'll start talking. He'll get too fast. He goes, God damn, I'm just excited.
Yeah.
So it's helping his speech.
That's
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
I know of some children who take CBD that are on the spectrum, and it helps them. And bringing up a
Right.
child on the spectrum can be hard. And I give props to all parents, but especially the ones that are dealing with this every day. And something
Yeah.
that you should know is, not you, but the listeners, is autistic children, like typical children, aren't not normal.
Right.
Kids grow behavioral changes, and new knowledge is gained. Empathy and social skills are learned, and be open and patient. There are
Right.
plenty of parents who,
People got to remember, people like Einstein didn't talk till he was like 5 or 6 or something like that.
Right.
exactly, and he got made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of parents dealing with similar situations. But if you guys, do the research and stuff like that, there are places that'll help if you need it. I know it can be hard to interact.
You can
with
look
people.
up the statistics on the Center of Disease Control right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think a state in the Northeast is leading with like 1 in every 34 children are now being diagnosed with autism. I know in 2012 it was like Wisconsin was 1 out of every 50 something.
Wow.
So the numbers are getting closer and closer, and then soon enough it'll be 1 to 2, where it's a spectrum. So it's just something. But if you're an autistic parent, don't get down on yourself.
Exactly.
Try again. In the words of Brayden, try again.
That's really good advice.
Up. You cannot give up.
Exactly. Is there any other advice that you could give to parents?
Stay patient and laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Laugh at yourself, and don't be afraid to laugh at your child.
I found the stats from CDC. It says increases estimate autism prevalence by 15%, 1 in 59 children.
Wow.
1 in 59.
Yeah, 1 in
when
59.
When I had my first autism benefit when I moved back home, it was 1 in every 121. That was in 2009-10 area. So that shows you how fast the early detection, walking on the tiptoes, 1-hand clap, playing by themselves, not answering their name, not staring off to the gazes, because I do that when I try to think or watch TV, you zone people out. But watch for lining up toys and so forth in a perfect line. And when you mess with one, you'll think the child has OCD because it has to put it back in a straight line. So those are all early detection of it.
I did just find that stat you were talking about for a specific state. It was New Jersey in 20.
New Jersey.
20. Let's see if it has a date on here. It actually doesn't have a date. But yeah, it was a 20% increase in New Jersey, and then the 159 was a nationwide stat.
1 in every 59 children.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is.
Moving here where I am.
I'm sorry, I read the stat actually wrong. It said it moved from 1 in 59 to 1 in 68.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
It's still
high.
Oh yeah.
Moving here, I haven't known a lot of people that are on the spectrum, but moving here, I've gotten to know more, and it's been very eye-opening, and it just makes me want to help any way I can with, them excelling in what they want to excel in, and getting to watch, a high-functioning autistic boy or girl ride a bike for the first time, or make their first basket. It just, in the look on their face, or when you bring them a toy that they just absolutely love and they haven't had one, but they talk about it all the time.
Right.
It just feels so good. It feels so great seeing the look on their face and just feeling that love, and just the real genuine love too. They
want to be involved. I took the talk of accomplishment that you just spoke of. I got to see that when I got my son. I give my son my debit card and let him buy his own first ice cream.
Yeah.
And he got to keep the receipt. I did this. Dad let me do this by myself. So we did that. And then this past weekend, my nephew won the county championship in his conference for football.
Oh, congrats to him.
And
That's
my
awesome.
son says, next year, Dad, I'm going to play. So that would be so cool. They're 1 year apart. They look just about the same. My nephew Gabe, he's leaner, a little bit taller than Brayden. But that would be the dynamic duo.
Oh.
That's awesome.
They're both redheaded. Gabe is guard, Brayden is tackle.
That's
On
awesome.
offense and defense, and them just helping each other at the line, and me on the sideline hollering, "Get Daddy the ball!"
Oh, that's so cool.
I love it.
So that's goals. I mean, to get through all of this, I've had to set small goals every day. Today I'm going to eat breakfast. Today I'm going to eat something other than potted meat. Today I'm going to go outside and just enjoy the sunlight. Because my job was my livelihood so much, I quit driving. Because as a cop, I was getting paid to drive.
Mm-hmm.
So I just okay, I'm not driving anymore. I'm not getting paid to do it. So then social anxiety kicks in because as a cop, I was community-oriented policing. Talking to people. What's going on in your neck of the woods? Where are you from? And then now when I go out in public, I call it a PTSD episode because people still come up to me and they think I'm working. I've kind of turned into a shut-in. I've stayed in this bedroom until I've smoked the walls beige twice. Because once I get outside, it kind of feels like I'm useless. I can't help anybody anymore.
I can empathize with that with my
You know what I mean?
sickness. I empathize completely with my sickness because I went to school to be a mechanic, and my sickness has completely stopped me from doing that regularly. I do side jobs and stuff like
Right.
that, but I can tell it makes you feel useless, and being a man, that's really, really hard.
Yeah, and it's like I quit going to concerts and shows because I started feeling unsafe in the crowd. Fights would break out. And so I usually don't go to a show unless I'm on stage or can stand all the way back in the door. But I've learned, I've had to study me. I've had to study my diagnosis. I've went through 1, 2, 3. I'm starting my 4th practitioner. This time it's a nurse practitioner. I went through 3 doctors, psychiatrists. Fired the first one didn't accept workers' comp. The second one, I fired him because it became a conflict of interest. The third one quit where he worked. The fourth one showed me the door, told me to go on to the MCHC where I've transferred my care to. But now my personal doctor, my family doctor, who I went to high school with him, the CEO of the company, he and my Uncle Doyle, who's passed away, were best friends growing up. So I know the family. So I know finally, after 8 years of treatment, I'm going to be under one roof with all my care. And they know me as Brandon or Walker. And so I don't have nothing to worry about.
I understand that relief because I just finally got set up with a doctor's office that's directly connected to the emergency room for when I have my episodes, and it's just a huge relief. It's something I've been fighting for almost a decade.
A decade.
Yeah.
How are your teeth holding up?
Real good. I'm real lucky compared to most people with CVS. I got real good teeth.
See, I started having, they called it Barrett's esophagus, and I would start throwing up within 5 minutes of eating. It was just the stress and the too many medications, and I set up gum line cavities. And I about lost every tooth in my head. 2 years ago, I had to have everything filled at the gum line, or else I was going to lose them.
Yeah, that's something very common with people with CVS is tooth decay and stuff like that from all the acids and stuff in your stomach. But
yeah.
I'm lucky. I guess genetically, I have good teeth, but then I brush my teeth all the time.
Right. Yeah. When I was throwing up, I was just rinsing with water, thinking it was doing the trick. Wrong.
Nope.
You got to brush them.
Something that you mentioned when we were first starting to talk, you said I've took too many oaths on too many Bibles and sealed some vows with kisses in the Masonic Lodge here in Whitesburg. What did you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
I can't lie.
Yeah?
I can't lie to people.
Have
I'm
you
too honest for my own damn good sometimes. You,
witnessed or been through something specific that is just insane that this pertains to?
well, I had they're divorced. She was married to a trooper, and he was cheating on her. And I knew about it.
Hmm.
But we had each other's back at the job. I separated. I took care of me. I didn't care what you did. If you had my back on the complaint, I had your back on the complaint. I didn't get involved in family stuff unless I was asked directly. And this woman, the trooper's wife, catches me in Wendy's eating and asked me if he had been cheating on her. And in the middle of the bite, I said, "You don't want to know." Something along those lines. I can't say. And then I got up and threw a hamburger away with one bite taken out of it, and I left, and she started crying because I would rather cut my tongue out
Then lie.
than lie to somebody. You know, if I'm in a grudge with somebody, I will ghost you just to avoid talking to you.
That's real.
So, but I've got so blunt that my tongue is so sharp I can cut to the bone. And I do that with my son just to try to teach him when to sugarcoat something and when to really get his way. You know, his tongue was scrambled. That's what I call it with autism. He was thinking too fast, and the vocal cords couldn't get in tune with each other. So now it's like I make him enunciate his words. When we watch movies here at Dad's house or Granny's house, the captions are always on. And I'll have him read certain parts to me to make sure he understands the word. Then we'll break it down. And I tell people if I can't explain it to my son Brayden, then we don't need to talk about it. You know, I got to break stuff down to the purest, simplest form, even if it means going back to its Latin birth.
It's a good way to interact with your son.
Yeah, but now he's got to the point where he's like, "Daddy, I'm not dumb."
Yeah.
Because he's like, "Siri, spell Tennessee." And I'm like, no way, man. You don't look like Dad did, pen and paper. But no, it's been different. I mean, civilian life is a different life for me because as a police officer, you're basically a domestic Marine. You fight for the home front.
Being a police officer, what's the most dangerous thing you have dealt with?
The most dangerous thing I've dealt with:
Mm-hmm.
carrying a gun every day.
Wow.
Because you're taking that gun to every fight complaint that you're going on.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking that gun to every ball game that you're going to work security at.
Mm.
You're taking that gun in the car with you every time, and you could wreck. And if it blows up on you or catches fire, you're probably getting shot in the leg from the heat. So just packing the gun in general was the most dangerous thing I ever did. I've kicked in countless numbers of doors. When I worked in Knott County, they loved me over there because I had a trooper who's now lieutenant. He told my boss, Ray Boland, at the time, he said, "I bet you I love having Paul Brandon working over here." And he's like, "Why?" He said, "He's got the key to every door in your county in the bottom of his boot. I've not seen a door yet that he's not folded and ripped off the hinges." So it was like the hamster and bolt. I laughed in the face of fear, you know.
Yeah.
And it was adrenaline rush. But
I
those
bet.
adrenaline rushes are paying the price on me because now I'm on a beta blocker to block the adrenaline to slow my heart rate down.
Wow.
So I tell people that the way I worked, I lit my candle at both ends, I jump rope the middle just to keep the wick from burning into. So,
Did you always want to be a cop?
yeah. I wanted to be either three things growing up. I wanted to be a country music singer, performer, artist, highwayman, or a cop. Or if I couldn't do either one of those, I wanted to be a over-the-road trucker. Get paid to drive, get paid to see scenery, and stuff like that. So
What's the toughest decision you have made as a cop?
every arrest,
Wow, yeah.
because you're taking away somebody's civil liberties, you better be right.
That's a great answer.
It's
If
good to
you're
hear,
wrong,
it's good to hear a law enforcement say something like that.
well, if
Yeah.
you're wrong, that's an FBI case. FBI handles civil rights violations. You don't want to get sued federally. That's the minimum 7-year sentence, you know. So I like my freedom.
Have you ever dealt with a case that's gone wrong or know of anybody that has?
I know too many cases gone wrong, and I know I've probably had a few of them, but
What's
the
example of a bad
the
one?
worst case I ever had go wrong.
Yeah.
I arrested the guy. I about got in a fight with him at my 20th high school reunion. But I arrested the guy in 2004, 2005. He had a gun. I arrested him within 1,000 yards of a school. He had money, scales, and whatnot. I charged him with trafficking. The chief at the time got hurt somehow or another and refused to come to court to testify. Well, it turns out the reason he refused to come to court to testify, the evidence went missing because he put it in his car. And it disappeared somewhere or another, the gun and the pills.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, when they called him in for a drug test, he goes to Florida.
He was dirty?
I'm not going to say that. I can't
Yeah.
prove it. But there was too many stories on him.
It
And
stinks a little.
Yeah.
he would fill his timesheets out, and every
Stinker.
timesheet he did had 40 hours of overtime, and he would fill them out beforehand on Monday and keep them under his computer desk. But he was
Wow.
8 to 4 every day. Dropped his kids off at school, wouldn't even help direct traffic sometimes. But he did buy breakfast every now and then, so I can't really shit on him so much.
It's amazing what
Have-
people do.
Yeah. All you got to do is feed me, back me up, say yeah every now and then when I talk. We're good. But don't f my cases over. And if Brayden watches this, that's Daddy's one bad word.
I can bleep it out too if you want to.
Okay, yeah, do that. It's bleep, son.
Have you been involved in a shooting?
I've been first on scene several times. I've never had to pull the trigger. With Sam Barnett, that was a suicide by cop, but he took his own life. In 2004, 2005, my first cousin or second cousin was killed by 2 Jenkins cops.
I'm sorry.
But to me, they did me a favor. He wanted to go. He had 2 butcher knives in his hand, and he charged them.
Wow.
That could have happened at my grandmother's house on Thanksgiving or Christmas. He wanted to go, but he just didn't want to go the way out, you know.
Yeah.
So when I told him that I was related to him, one cop threw up, the other one about passed out, and I ID'd the body. And I was there for the whole works when it was, I contacted my dad, Dad contacted the family. And then it turned into why didn't they just shoot him in the legs? And I had to explain to him, as a cop, you're not trained to be John Wayne. You're trained to shoot a Coke bottle.
Mm-hmm.
You stop the threat, and the threat is not stopped until it's no longer breathing.
Facts.
So
What's some advice for anyone who wants to become a cop?
don't do it. Become a school teacher.
That's good advice. Yeah. Why?
You're still in charge of a bunch of people. You're influencing lives. You're indoors during the good weather. You're indoors during the bad weather. Same damn retirement. No bullets.
Wow.
And if you're afraid of a school shooting, those are so rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. We're both
Those
pro
are so
Second
rare.
Amendment, so.
And if
sure.
you carry a rubber door stopper, and if you hear gunfire or firecrackers in the hallway, you drop the rubber door stopper at the door. Now they can't get in here. And you line Johnny and Janie's up down to the side of the wall. And as far as I know, I've not seen a handgun bullet yet that can go through cinder block walls. So,
True.
but that's my advice. Don't do it. It takes I did it because I didn't want my son to do it. I did it because I wanted to save the world. I wanted to make that difference. And I have. I've had people tell me that I got them off of drugs, that I scared them straight as a child. But now in this world, there's so many cameras out. Let AI be the police. There's facial recognition on cameras everywhere. There's audio cameras everywhere. There's cell phones. This right here, I've not packed a gun or a badge in 8 years, but I've always got my phone. I can call 911. I can take my assailant picture. I can video his words.
Right.
So it's the safest time there ever was in America when you're buying cars and trucks that are controlled by a paperweight, basically, and you get in and put your foot on the brake and hit start. Think about it. It's a big rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in your pocket. That's how easy your car can get stolen. You go to the restaurant while you're eating, somebody just snatch it. You've lost the car.
True.
Yep.
So we've lost keys. We don't even
Yeah.
have keys anymore.
Yeah. Unless either of you have something else that you want to touch on, I have one more question for you, and then I'd like to wrap this up.
My phone's it's below 10%, so go ahead.
For sure. Have you witnessed murder? I know that you've talked about the suicide, but have you witnessed an actual murder?
I've never witnessed a murder go down, but in 2003, 6 months on the job, me with no vest or radio, I was dispatched to Artist Drive here in Letcher County, and it was a double murder. One body was still in the house. I'm glad I didn't look at him because his eyes was open. EMS ambulance has got the other guy in the back of the ambulance doing CPR. He's about to die. The killer, who is still alive in a nursing home right now, has retreated to his house. And then during our investigation, the granddaughter shows up requesting me personally to talk to her mother. The mother tells me that my dad is in the house, covered in blood, got a pistol in his pocket. He's took all these pills. We got an overdose complaint at RB Drive. So they sent me over there so the state police could work the scene. It was their call anyway, but I beat them to it. It was festival time here. So when I get there, she runs in the house. He retreats out the back door. When the screen door hits, it sounds like a gunshot. So the old man deputy that was with me that didn't have a gun, but he had the radio, yells shots fired. So I yell shots fired. So when I go around the right side of the house, I met with a man with a pistol looking at me, and something, I don't know if he shot at me, but something flew from the house like debris, wood, in front of my face. So when I pulled my gun, like I said, I'm brand new on the job and not been to the academy yet. I've never experienced this. I say, drop it, drop it, drop it. And on the third drop it, he brings his gun from me to his chest. And he pulls the trigger, thinking he shot himself in the heart, but he shot himself in the pectoral muscle. And it goes out underneath the shoulder.
Dang.
Okay. So I rip his shirt open. The old man, Geldine, he drops the radio. It knocks it off the channel. I don't have my radio because I'm supposed to be at the festival. Kissing babies and shaking hands because I'm supposed to be the sheriff for 4 years. I'm the hometown hero, according to the sheriff, my role model at the time, Danny Webb. So when I noticed that he's missed any vital organs, I kept my Miranda card in my wallet. So I Mirandized this man. And I asked him why he did it. And he grumbles. And I said, why did you shoot yourself? He said, because I'm in trouble. And I said, I've got you. Right there.
Dang.
Why'd you shoot yourself? Because I'm in trouble.
Got him.
Got you. but the man is still alive. I found out. I talked to the detective that worked the case. He's retired now. But that guy on a Sunday before all that one happened stopped at the Hyman Funeral Home Services and made his own funeral arrangements, thinking he was going to be suicide by cop by the new deputy, which was me.
Wow.
I was like a black cloud, you all. If it was going to happen, it just fell in my damn lap.
Yeah, your story's super interesting, and I love to have you back on to be able to touch on.
Anytime, I'm full of stories. I have friends. Speaking of the federal sex stuff, I've got a guy that I know that I'm thinking about opening a restaurant with. He's a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Was staying with a person, I think in Virginia, and they busted him for sex trafficking.
Wow.
And he's gay, so he was about to become a victim himself.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI showed up and said, you can either speak with us or you can be charged. So he chose to speak. And he's 20 years old.
Dang, that's
so
young.
I can get you all, and there's other police officers. If you can get a police officer to open up and talk to you all. Badges usually only talk to other badges. But I've been flying solo now for 8 years because the job keeps going. And I probably remind them of something or show them this is what you're going to end up as if you don't take a break.
And that's great. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
You've helped flip my perception on law enforcement just in this talk. I think there's a lot more law enforcement out there, a lot like you, than the way the media has been demonizing a lot lately. I want to just thank you for coming on.
Well, you're welcome. You got to look at TV as ratings.
Exactly.
They canceled Andy Griffith when Andy Griffith went color. You know, serious. When he went color, he only lasted 1.5, 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Before that, he was 8. He showed his age on TV. You know, Aunt B's hair was gray, not black anymore. So, but I appreciate y'all having me on. It's good for me to talk to people. I haven't had a conversation with people this long in like 7 years. There's a girl has got me talking. She's an artist in Knott County. And from her sending me one picture, I wrote a complete 17-track album that I'm going to get in the studio on November the 1st to start working on.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear it.
But she got me on the phone. She said, you can call me if you want to. And that was the longest conversation I had with her since my father died 5 years ago.
Wow.
So when I lost my badge, I lost my voice, is how I felt. Because people used to listen to me. Then the city of Whitesburg tuned me into a used to be. And Topics used to be a website. And when you would Google my full name, it would pop up. And they killed me 3 times on Topics. 2 times by my own hand, 1 time by murder. And they would say I need to go back to a psych ward, that I've lost my mind. Topics, it violated their whole persona because they weren't supposed to use anybody's whole name. So I left them up. I knew about them. I didn't read them, but I didn't touch them because I wanted to see who believed that horse shit and who really knew me.
Yep.
And it's helped a lot. It's helped a lot.
That's
Public
amazing.
perception is trivial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We know how that goes.
Yeah. How many politicians? Have you all busted any politicians in your...
No, I think the craziest one was that he was a sex crime division cop, right?
I don't reckon.
Yeah, he was in the the child sex crimes unit for sure.
And he was a predator.
Yes, he came to meet a little boy.
Sicko. My God, man. See what I mean?
You never know.
Here and we start talking about the cops, and here this one just pulls the rug out.
Yeah, his name was Derek. He was 37. He came to meet a 15-year-old boy, and he worked internet crimes against children investigations in conjunction with other state and local investigative agencies. He was also part of the formation of the Crimes Against Children Task Force and was an active investigator for Project Safe Childhood, administered by the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was deputized as a deputy U.S. Marshal during his time with the task force under the umbrella of the FBI investigations. Yeah. That was in Idaho.
A real turd.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Well,
For sure.
Okay.
I have some other choice words for him, but we won't use them.
True. My son will probably watch this. So, yeah.
But I would just like to say thank you, and I appreciate you for coming on. I'm looking forward to doing another one of these, and I'm excited for you for when you start your podcast. I think
Okay.
I think you have a great voice for it, and
Well, thank you.
I'd love to hear your content too.
Okay. Now, next time I'm on, the case is open right now, so I really can't talk about it. But here in Letcher County, you all can Google it and get your outline.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's name is Charles Hall, and he is a school teacher, and he used to work for the Board of Education in Frankfurt.
Okay.
And he's incarcerated right now in Letcher County Jail for having sexual interactions and content. And I don't know how deep it went with his social media stuff, but I think he crossed state lines was a rumor. Because once I quit being a cop, I quit watching the news, quit reading the newspaper. Because unless I'm in it, I can't, I just monitored to see if I was misquoted.
Yeah.
Or if I look too fat for TV. So, but it's real interesting because the man, his wife has divorced him now. He's listed as a flight risk. And it's brought up the previous allegations that turned out to be true, that he actually did it as a high school teacher in Fleming. And to get out of it, he bought that family a double-wide trailer.
Wow.
He birthed the child with the girl, a student.
Gross. Well, looks like his phone just died.
I think it's. I don't know how else to cover it. It looked like his phone just died. So
I guess we're going to end it on that note. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting. And we really appreciate the Apple podcast reviews. We're going to leave all of his socials and his son's socials in the description. Make sure to go subscribe to his son's YouTube. I think that would be amazing. I'm definitely going to go subscribe, and I know Drew will. And I'm going to have my group of friends that I am in groups with go do it as well. I hope you guys do that for us and for him, and just knowing how excited he will be to see those numbers go up should be enough of a push to go just hit that button for him. Just go
remember his name.
Smash it.
It's Paul Brandon Fields. Walker's his nickname. If you type him in Google, he comes up real quick.
Yeah, but all the links will be in the description below to his Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. His music's great. His Instagram, he posts like memes and stuff like that, and stuff that's very close to home to him, so it's very personal. Go check all that stuff out, you guys. It's just a click of a button. You should do it. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for listening. Go check out our Instagram, and if you want to come on, or if you have a story of betrayal that you want out there, let us know. Banana Cats.
Banana Cats. Much love. Peace.